Co-Racing League for more Tier 1 action here on Thursday evening. My name is Jamie Morris, and once again I am joined by Stevan.
Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for having me, Jamie. I'm glad to be back in the commentary box after a week break. So I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, me too, mate. After a week's break, had to refresh myself what happened last time in Portimao when at the European Grand Prix, and it was Marta who took the victory over Isak Kush after those two had their battle with Orvillin as well in P3, and Orvillin has brought the gap down in the championship as well, because now the gap between Orvillin and Tony is 7 points, and Choye a further 15 points behind Tony as well, so it's all to play for in the championship as it gets tighter and tighter, as Walter and Isak Kush will be able to join the fight, because Walter's form recently has been amazing, and can he keep it up as well to get those results that he needs to try and get those points to try and take the championship away from Tony. Tony ought to lose for him because he didn't have the best of races in Portimao as he made contact with Choye in the sprint, I think, and they both had to recover in the feature race, so that's why Tony lost a whole load of points there, and Orvillin was able to close in there. Talking about Tony, he's the first man out on the circuit, and are you excited for this Grand Prix, Stevan?
I certainly am, especially after the week break. I'm really excited to see the drivers go at it again after some interesting races, and like you said, Wout picking up some momentum in the championship now, so I can't wait for the end of the season and the middle part of the season to just carry on, and yeah, hopefully we could see some exciting races and a good championship battle, unlike in a PSGL.
Well, I've not been watching PSG races, so I can't really say my opinion on them, but yeah, Tony, the man also in PSG as a reserve driver, but hopefully he can commit to a full-time driver, because we know he's a very quick guy, but obviously it's no assist, so that's what he's hoping to aim for. But we're back onto Co-Racing League then, as Tony making his way around a triple right-hander as he's about to start his first flying lap, with majority of the drivers out there on the circuit with the AlphaTauri, the last man to come out before the Mercedes heads down the pit lane. Tony then makes his way around the final corner, DRS enabled then on this long main straight as we head up towards turn number 1, then the higher elevation change, climbing uphill. Brian Kless breaking the black box there, locks up on entry, but nevertheless he makes the apex, gets a bit of wheel spin on the exit of turn number 1, now headed through turn 2, simple flat, now coming in towards the S section, replicating Maggots and Beckett's, carrying a lot of speed through these corners, gradually getting slower then as he's threading the cars through. A 25.3 in the first sector for him as he makes his way, hugging the inside curve there, which he does very nicely on his first attempt, with the track evolution not kicking either. So on his first attempt that looked very nice, threading the car through the first sector alone, as you can see, using a lot of track then, and he hooks the inside curve very nicely there to use a lot of edge curve as well. And now DRS enabled then for this long straight. It's interesting to watch these drivers in tier 1, because you can see what lines they take and the amount of speed they carry through as well, and that's what I was able to learn about that as well in Portimao. Breaking the 100-meter board then as we head down into turn number 12, into 4th gear we go. You can take a lot of that curve without a validator. Coming through turn number 13 then, heavy traction zone, it's very easy to lose the back end of the car, especially with the tyres. Oh, Nelly Safu there has retired from the session then as we come into this left-hander here. Just want to open it up to get a good exit. Now coming through the triple right-hander, the left front will feel this. It's flat out in qualifying, but won't be in the early parts of the race. You want to be very careful because it's so easy to lose the back end. Flick it through in this penultimate corner here, without wide but not too wide, and now coming through the final corner here, and just keep it nice and tidy, because this lap has been fantastic from Tony. Oh, the final corner almost got him out, and it's a 32.7 as our first benchmark. What do you think about that lap, Sir Steven? That was a good one, wasn't it?
Certainly good bankers. I actually quickly beaten by Wouter about a 10th. That final corner for Tony was horrendous, so certainly can gain time there. But overall it was a good banker lap, and with 30 minutes still left of this qualifying session, it's still plenty of time for others to improve on that time. Needless to say, retired in the pit, so I'm presuming he's got a qualifying bans, so he has retired in the pits. Leo goes into 3rd place for the Alpine team, 3 tenths behind, actually 6 tenths behind now the leader, as actually Leo has spun into the wall now on the exit of turn 1. Ethan Gustein now takes pole position, a 32.473, good time there, good bankers we're seeing honestly from the drivers.
Yeah, 32. I think the tier 3 boys were doing about a 33, I think. So yeah, 32 is a very good lap times here from the tier 1 boys. And the Aston Martin de Mongol has gone up into P4 ahead of Leo, who's just crossed the line himself into P5. In fact, it was actually somebody else, I think it was Tone, I'm not quite sure who it was. Somebody crossed the line to go up. I think it was Bob here, P8. But when you said Leo spun out of turn number 1, I was wondering what he was doing, because he's just completed this lap. He's just lost an end plate, and he's so lucky not to lose a tyre as well, because that would have been at the end of his qualifying, only doing one run on that set of tyres on an in lap potentially. So I don't know what he was doing there. But hopefully he doesn't do it again, because that was very lucky not to lose a wheel there and cost him the rest of his qualifying, especially like a silly mistake like that, bottling on your in-lap. But yeah, we've got both Ferraris out there then. I think we've got Mercedes coming towards that final corner. I think it's Kenny who's just invalidated his lap. AJ also invalidated that lap as well. I was flicking through the gyros. One remaining clown out there, which is Jet, coming around the final corner at 3.4 in that middle sector as he makes his way towards the line. It's a 34.1, unfortunately for him, in P10, with Jasper being the slowest car in P11 there in the Haas. But I think we've got an Alpine there making his way towards the triple right-hander. I think that's Leo who's on his in lap. Yes, it is. Leo is coming on his in lap. He did go out wide there, but just wonder who else is out there, because we've got plenty of drivers who have set a lap time. Yeah, Nathan is one of them, and Rotation. They both have invalidated their lap times, along with Reservoir. So that's 3 drivers already who have been on board with invalidating their lap times. But one isn't. It is Troye. He's making his way around that final corner. Let's see what lap time the Ferrari man can set. It's a 33.0 then, so a bit away off of Isak Kush's lap by 6/10. So there's definitely a lot to find there for a championship contender who's currently in P3 in the championship.
Certainly all the times now, slowly but surely coming down. Plenty of drivers making mistakes. Of course, it's not an easy circuit at all in terms of track limits. You can easily just cut the corner slightly in the SS in sector 1, which can just get you mentally in a bad preparation for the second or third run in a session. So the drivers who have set a lap should be pretty satisfied, as they know they can push a bit more compared to the drivers who invalidated, like both AlphaTauris, Recify, Evans Joshua, AJ is actually on an outlap, and then Kenny is also invalidated, but I'm presuming he's going to go for another run, and Aurelian is now on his outlap, the guy who's also in the championship battle. So yeah, let's see how everyone does on a second run.
He's 7 points away in the championship is Aurelian, and after missing out on a win in Portimao, because I do believe those two made contact. I think it was Aurelian and Wild to make contact as they were fighting for the lead of the race. What an intense battle that was at the final laps of the race. But Aurelian there homing in on Tony, who's had some misfortunes, like in Baku when he crashed in the castle section, lost a whole load of points there, and also at Portimao. Hopefully those mistakes will stop now after a week's break, and he can finally put his head down and try correct it. He's in P3 at the moment, but we're on board with Aurelian because he hasn't set a lap time yet. I've not seen him invalidate his lap times, unlike like the rest of them have, but he's making his way uphill into turn number 1 then, and spotted his braking point, turning very nicely, hugging the inside curve, no problem with traction whatsoever. So Tony could have found a bit more time, because he may have wheel spin coming out of turn number 1, and the last corner as well, that's where he also suffered with wheel spin. So there's more time to be found from Tony. He's actually out on the track as well, as Aurelian sets 25.2 in the first sector then. Look at that, threading the car through the corners there, taking a lot of curb, especially on the exit as well, which you want to do, maximising the track to find the most time as we make our way into turn 11, then break before the 50-metre board. It's incredible how late these cars can break, because I think a few games ago it was you break at the 100-metre board, but now you can slow it down easily with the downforce on the car. And now Aurelian then on the DRS straight then, second DRS zone, as we make our way down into turn number 12 then, braking at the 100-metre board there, down through the gears, into fourth. Doesn't really cut the corner like others do, because you can cut a lot of that corner and get away with it. But as we head on to turn number 13 now, and turn number 14 stays in fourth gear, just experiments with the throttle to see how much he can take as we come into the left-hander there. Very nice exit indeed. And now coming into the triple right-hander, should be flat out for Aurelian. As you can see there, only fueled the car for 1 lap as well, so this lap he couldn't afford to make a mistake, because he can't go out there once again because the fuel is very low. Coming through the penultimate corner, didn't really seemed a bit hesitant at the exit of it, but as we come into the final corner, let's see what Aurelian can do. It's a 32.4, and he beats Isak Kush by 4 thousandths in it between those two. Wow, good lap times. But Wouter, I went on board with him, or flicked on board with him, and unfortunately he invalidated his lap time. He was 1/10 up, and Tony has as well. So both of those have invalidated. So Isak Kush making his way towards the line. I think he just completed a lap on those set of tyres, because it's saying he invalidated. I think that was his out lap. But yeah, a few drivers then in this stage invalidated that lap times.
Indeed. You know, with Aurelian, he's always going to be near the top 5 within the grids here, and him being so consistent in the race makes it a very tough opponent to actually beat. He gets so many points together. So there's plenty of traffic in the middle, or in the first sector here, end of sector 1. But with Aurelian showing his qualifying pace as well now, he's gonna be someone to really look out for. And Tony, who is someone who's really good in qualifying but not as good in the race, he needs to make sure he's ahead of Aurelian to have a chance to beat him in the race.
And I was on board with Isaac Kush in the first set. It's a bit scruffy in the first few parts of the corner, so he did lose a 10th in that first set, but can he find his time back as well as he cuts that corner? But as you can see there, a bit hesitant on the exit. He's 1/10 down once again in that middle sector there, so he did lose time in the first sector because he did get a bit wider than he would have wanted, which compromises his next entry because it's just one big flow. You don't want to make one mistake in that first sector because it compromises your entry to the next corners. But as we make our way into the triple right-hander, is Isak Kush going to bail out of it and come into the pit lane or complete this lap as he makes his way through the... Oh, yeah, that's a bit too wide, and into the pit lane he goes and takes out the cone as well. So Isak Kush then knows he made a mistake on that lap. Isak Kush, Demongol, his teammate, is coming towards the final corner then. Let's see what he can do. And now he makes his way towards the line. It's a 33.0, so he lost time, did Seeb, and he stays where he is there with no improvement to his name at all. But I wonder where Tony is. He's out there, and he's validated once again, has Tony, unfortunately, there. So yeah, crucial times, desperate times with desperate measures, of course, and unfortunately just taking a bit too much track. And he did improve in the middle sector, only slightly though, so that wouldn't have been enough to take P3 away. But looks like somebody else moved up the order. That is Kenny in P6. His best qualifying was at Monza when he qualified in P3, but unfortunately he couldn't make it stick in the race. But he did score his best result at the Dutch Grand Prix, where he finished in P4 behind Bonpierre. Troyer is going quicker. He's gone quick in the first sector, has the Ferrari. There's his teammate, or I think he's an Alfa Romeo ahead of him. Yeah, one of them is going slow, but there's yellow flags in that middle sector. I think it's his Ferrari teammate. And Troyer, 500s up in that middle sector, so he did lose a bit of time now in that first sector, but can he make it all back up? And look at that, look at the wide approach he takes to get a slingshot exit out there. And that was very nice indeed there. No signs of wheel spin for Troyer as he makes his way now towards the triple right-hander. Flat out corner, of course, but the left front tyre will feel it as we flick our way now into the penultimate corner. 5th gear, using all the curb on the exit, coming towards that final corner now. Let's see how much time he's found in this last sector. Where's it going to be? A 32.7. He's improved by 2/10, so despite losing time in the middle sector, he found some time up in the last sector.
Nicely done. Before we quickly carry on with this qualifying session, apparently we're gonna have a rain in the race. Nathan told me full rye. That's literally what full quote, full rye to maybe dry at the end. So I think it's gonna be starting raining in the race at the beginning, of course, and then at the end it will be dry potentially. So we'll see. So that's gonna spice up things even more, like they are already throughout the season. People could change their setup a bit to maximize their performance in the race. So who knows who changes his setup to a wet setup, because they could really benefit from that in the race. As we now involved with Evans Joshua, he just started this run now in the Red Bull going into turn 1, and hopefully he can post a representative lap, since he's not posted a lap yet with only 3 minutes to go, and having an exit like that won't certainly help, as people are now starting to go into pits for their final runs.
3 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock, and we'll find out then which one can take pole position, which one can sustain the pressure, because I know on their second attempts some of the drivers have been invalidated. Will that oh, Joshua spun, and luckily he didn't. Oh, I think he hit the wall again, but did he have any end plate damage? But yeah, Joshua there struggling to come out of turn number 9 there, and unfortunately meeting up with the barrier, sustaining no front wing damage, but he could have bodywork damage or light green damage. But you can see the back of the car spinning there as the tyres are overheating thanks to that spin. But with 2 minutes and 55 seconds left on the clock there, can Josh, I don't think he could go back in the pit lane, because that'd be very nip and tuck if he does, but I think he has to stay out there if he's got the fuel to do so. On board with the Williams of Tony then, and there's a lot of traffic making its way out of turn number 1 then, so that's going to be very interesting. I saw Tony get out of the way on Isak Kush's lap, and you can see there one driver getting out of the way, which is Aston Martin. Thankfully, that's Isak Kush, so they both respect each other by getting out of each other's way. But hopefully, oh no, Tony takes a bit too much curb, unfortunately, and invalidates in that first sector. But the best thing about invalidating the first sector is that you can slow down for the rest of your lap, cool the tyres down and recharge the EOS, because if you do it at a place like the middle sector somewhere, you won't have that chance to cool down the tyres after they've been through a hell of a time in the first sector and through the middle part of the lap as well. So that's the benefits of invalidating. It's not a benefit, of course, but obviously it's better than doing it in middle sector, because it's the closest stage to qualifying. You can't head back in the pit lane because you won't have enough time to come back out of it. So Tony then, one last chance for him. Hopefully he's cooled the tyres down and recharged that EOS as well. So on a lot of pressure has Tony on his shoulders. We've got his teammate AJ, who's currently in P10 on the soft compound tyres there. He's currently inside the top 10, and let's see what he could do then in the second Williams car, making his way through turn number 2 now in the fast corners of turn 3, taking a wide entrance there. You can see there taking a lot of curb, carrying the speed. What a lovely good amount of speed he's carrying through there in the middle part, and it's going to be a 25.3 there, and that's similar to what other people are doing at the top of the field there. But you can see a bit of hesitation going into that one there, coming out of turn number 9, using all the exit curb under the crypto bridge, going downhill, bit of a toe from the Ferrari, but hopefully he doesn't compromise his entry into there by changing directions as he makes our way into turn 11 there. Gets good exit there with no signs of wheel spin, with the DRS wide open for the second straight. And let's see what speed he can approach, because we saw Dragoner's speed approaching about 350 kilometers an hour without the DRS. That's how much straight line speed he had in the Aston Martin in tier 3. And he locks up slightly on entry as rotation puts his AlphaTauri into P4. So the Swedish driver finally gets a lap time on the board as AJ improves in the middle sector slightly. But with 40 seconds left to go then, all the drivers are on the track except Joshua and Nelly Safu then closing down in qualifying. Let's see who can take pole position. There's yellow flags in the first sector. That's a Williams and Aston Martin going through there. And I wonder, is that our championship contenders then making a mistake on their final flying lap as AJ then makes his way towards the final corner? Can he pop himself back inside the top 10? Let's see how much time he's gained in that final sector. It's going to be a 33.0. He puts his Williams in P9, but who is the driver that made a mistake? Isak Kush there. Looks like he got away with it because he's 700s up in the first sector. Let's see what he does in this middle sector there. Has he found any time or lost any? He's 1/10 up in the middle sector. That is crucial because he's 4,000 slower than Aurelien then. So that 1/10 will boost him up into P1. And where's Aurelien on the track? He's somewhere out there. He's coming towards the end of the first sector. He's 3/10 down. Aurelien's lost time in this middle sector, so it's all dependent on Isak Kush then to see if Aurelien gets demoted down into P2. Walter's out there as well in the Mercedes. I think he's on the back straight. And we're about to see that Isak Kush making his way towards the final corner then. Can he snatch back pole? He's going to keep it nice and clean now because he's found a lot of time. It's going to be a 32.4. Only takes pole position but just by 600s there. But can anybody take it away? Walter in the middle sector. 800s up there. Not enough, unfortunately. He needs to find about 2 more tenths in this middle sector to take pole position away from Isak Kush there. Aurelien's retired there, so he won't take part. Tony's retired too. And we saw yellow flags in that first sector where Williams was as well, so that indicate why he's retired in the pit lane. He must have made another mistake on his final flying run. But what can Walter do? The Dutchman there making his way towards that Puddlesbrook corner, just in the confines of the track limits there, making his way towards the final corner. Can he snatch back pole as he makes his way now towards the line? What's going to be? It's a 32.4 and he pops it into second place. What a lap time there despite losing time in the middle sector there. Fantastic qualifying that was. Isak Kush is on pole, the Singapore driver. What a qualifying session that was.
Indeed, indeed. Many close times, especially between the top 3 here. All putting them with 32.4, and actually Troy improved to P4 now, beating Rotation's 32.7 here. Rotation had a good initial lap in the first and middle sector, but the final sector looked a bit messy, missed some apexes on the final turn as well, which definitely hindered his progress. But P4 on the grid, or P5 now actually, is not a bad place to be, and especially for Troy as well. Because championship leader Tony is down in P8, I think it is now, yeah, or P7, sorry. So Tony's got some catch up to do, but it's been a very exciting session here and I can't wait for the race.
Yeah, look at that, first and fourth separated by a tenth as well. Troye had me on my knees there in the final part of the qualifying because I saw he was improving, but could it be enough for pole? But he puts that Ferrari in P4, and crucially our championship leader is down in P7 then, with his championship contenders in the top 4, which is going to be a difficult one for him as well. We've got the Aston Martin, the Seaman P6 there, so he's got 2 Aston Martins to fight in the championship as well. Kenny's done a good qualifying session. AJ's decent as well. Leo in P10, the Romanian driver, ahead of Rezifine and Bompia, Leroy, Nathan, Julian, Jet, Jasper, Carl, Nelly Safu, and Joshua. Those 2 did not set a lap time in qualifying. Safu has got a qualifying ban, but he won't start last because Joshua's in last.
Oh, there is, and look at it now, at the weather here, the rain is pouring down here, unbelievable scenes here, so this is going to be a very exciting Grand Prix here for all the drivers. The drivers have to be aware of the conditions here. It certainly won't be an easy one to take care of, but I'm certain it's going to be an exciting one. For the controller users, it will be a difficult one. This will be advantage wheel users, so even more difficult for Tony, since he's on a controller. But we'll see. We're going to see the people who have switched to a wet setup potentially here in the race, and it's gonna be, we might say a 0 stop actually, if people are gonna try to attempt that, or try to switch over to the intermediates quickly. We don't know, since it looks to be full wet conditions for the moment.
I think I do remember a non-stop back at the Imola Grand Prix a few seasons ago where we had treacherous conditions as well. But last time it rained in USA, I think it was 2015, and that's when Hamilton and Rosberg were fighting for the championship as well. As they headed down into turn 1, I think Hamilton squeezed Rosberg out, and I think both Red Bulls were leading at 1.2 until Fiat crashed at the final corner, penultimate corner. So are we going to see any of that as well? Any drivers going to push each other out wide? Are they break a bit too late there? And Troye, and he being a ABS user, is not going to benefit him in the rain because it's so easy to slow down with no ABS. I don't know how to describe it, but I think with ABS on, it's so difficult to slow the car down. So we've got to watch out for that as it makes its way up into turn number 1. But we'll see then. I'm going to go 3 abreast, and the qualifying was pivotal because track position was very key in this race too. So it's very difficult to overtake in general, but in the wet conditions it's going to be very hard, and I wonder how these drivers are going to manage it then. But Isa Kush has the high ground so far in P1 with everybody in the wet tyres then for the full wet race, because last time we had a wet race, I think it was the Dutch Grand Prix, but it wasn't exactly full wet. So I think it was raining towards the end, wasn't it, Stefan?
Yeah, it might have been. I can't quite remember because it's been 2 weeks ago and I've got the memory of a goldfish, but doesn't matter. We're here for the moment, and it looks to be horrible conditions, I must add. I'm a Dutchman, I have to say that these conditions are very tricky, and of course, no surprise here, everyone has gone for wet tires. Joshua has been disqualified, same for Julian, so they're gonna have nice and cold tires for the start of the Grand Prix here. So Jet, Bats Jasper, Carl and Nilu Safu have to be aware of that one, that they're gonna have cold tires, and the rest, on the wet tires, try to warm them up. Not sure when it's gonna dry up, or if at all, so it's gonna be very spicy Grand Prix. Turn 1 is gonna be chaos, as Isaskus is really having an interesting manner to warm his tires here, going pretty much fully sun, just drifting through the corners here. So interesting tactic here for the Singaporean driver. I think it's, how you say it, Singaporean?
I think so.
That must be the way, but I think we're on for a very exciting Grand Prix here. Wouter and Isaskus really putting on the tempo here, leaving Aurelian and Troy behind ASAP here, which you don't say that often. But I can't wait for turn 1 here, so hopefully you are as well, Jamie.
Me neither, mate. Isa Kush's last win was at the first Grand Prix in China, so he's going for his second victory this season here in USA, fighting with Walter last time out in second place against Walter in first. So you can see Isa Kush there getting the extra bit of temperature. I remember what happened at the Portimao Grand Prix. Aurelian and Walter made contact. Aurelian almost got sent off into a spin, but he saved the car. Then Isa Kush went through, but he was too far behind to fight Walter because he was outside the 1 second range of DRS then. But Isa Kush there not exactly in the grid box. He's a bit to the left, it seems, so he's going full defense mode. And look at that, they're parked at a weird angle, as you expect there. The weirdest angle I've seen, I think it was Sebastian Vettel back in 20, I can't remember what it was, 19. I think it was a wet race, 17. It was 2017 where Sebastian Vettel parked in a weird angle in the wet conditions. But here we go then. Let's see what Isa Kush could do as all the drivers line up on the grid. Let's see who gets a good start here in USA, in Texas. First introduced in 2012 after Indianapolis, last race in USA in 2007. Now we've got 3 USA races in Florida and Las Vegas, but we're in Texas right now in the wet conditions. We are underway then for the USA Grand Prix, and I think Walter has got a better start than Isak Kush as we make our way uphill. There's a Ferrari, Troye then. Troye's going to go down the inside into turn number 1 we go. Is it 3 abreast? No, Troye backs out of it, but he goes down the inside of Isak Kush and he gets a better exit as well. Now he's alongside Walter, but you can see all fighting for traction. Isak Kush is still there, but look at Walter then. Are they going to go 3 abreast into turn number 3 here? No. Walter remains in the lead ahead of Troye. There's a retirement of Orveland. Orveland is out of the race, and there's a potential safety car as well. But what happened to Orveland in the Alpine then, as De Mongol is up into P4 ahead of rotation there. Both Aston Martins in P3 and P4. Isak Kush unfortunately having the outside line, couldn't get the grip he wanted, and he got to watch out for Troye and Walter up the inside too, and he had to be wise about that one as well. As De Mongol gets a 5-second time penalty for ignoring yellow flags then. Already another safety car. And the Mongol there, we saw that in Tier 3 with George Greaves, where he sped on the safety car, had a drive through 5-second time penalty, so unfortunate for him, he picks that up again. But what a first lap that was. And Tony's down in P18, and the virtual safety car's underway.
Indeed, indeed. It might have been Tony making contact with Aurelian, since they were close between each other on the grid here. So controversy between the championship contenders here. Sieb didn't get a speeding penalty, because if you do speed under the virtual safety car, you get a drive-through penalty and not a 5-second penalty. So you must have overtaken rotation just on the second. As we have a moment there going, Jamie.
Turn 15, Isak Kush there lost the car, but look at Troye underneath rotation. Isak Kush there. Now they're going side by side in the triple right-hander. Ever since the VSC went away, these two have been scrapping at it. Now they're still side by side, going into the penultimate corner here. Troye has the inside line, but Isak Kush is going to try and stick it around the outside. Can be very careful on the curves there. Easy to lose the car, and ever since those two have been fighting, Walter's been able to pull away. But what a battle that was in the final sector there, with Troye and Isak Kush going side by side. Troye had a beautiful exit coming out of turn 16 there, but he stays behind Isak Kush for the time being as we move on to lap 2. Out of 28, no DRS enabled as well in the first lap. We can see AlphaTauri going deep into turn number 1 there. That was rotation. They're all fighting for traction as the car just snatches away from him. Good start from Joshua from P20 all the way to P30 as well, making up places after other people's misfortunes there. Bompierre down into P15, had a dreadful start too. AJ's up into P8 ahead of Nathan in P9 then, so I want to have a look at the most gains and most losses. The most gains is Joshua from P20 to P13. The most lost is Orvino because he's out of the race, and that's pivotal for the championship as well. He's going to lose a load of points as well for good measure, so that's Orvino then. Already losing a lot of points. He was 7 points behind Tony in the championship, and now he's retired out of the race, and it's swung towards Tony's way. No, it hasn't, because he's down to P19 then, so it's swung towards Isak Kush's way so far in P2, because he's the closest contender. Leroy has overtaken Julian for P11. They're both in the Alfa Romeo. They're going side by side now, coming out of the corner, both using the ERS. Let's see who gets better straight line speed. They've got the Red Bull and Joshua right behind him then, so looking to take advantage if he's to make a mistake. But Leroy has the inside line there. Will he go deep on the brakes to allow Julian to cut back underneath him? No, he won't. So Leroy there remains in P11. We've got the Haas of Bompierre fighting with Jet, and the other Haas of Jasper fighting with Carl there. The two Dutchmen going at it, but looks like Jasper made it out ahead of Carl, and Bompierre there getting all out of shape coming out of turn number 15 there, but back on board with the top guys as they're both all bunched up together. Leo in P6, he's right behind rotation as well, so it looks like he's got some good grip and confidence in these wet conditions, and he goes off the track as well. That's been very careful as Julian's gone for a spin, and that's at the triple right-hander there. Very careful, they're very difficult as well, but Walter leads with a 1.4 second gap over Isak Kush.
Indeed, the trick conditions catching out Julian here at the moment, down to P15 here. Not too many incidents, to be fair, apart from the start and of course the spin just now. But the question, interestingly, Evans Joshua moving up another place right now, up to P11, moving past Leroy here. So, despite not having a good qualifying here, Evans Joshua working his way up in the grid up to P11 right now, and hopefully he can now catch up to Resify, who's also had a solid start now in P10 behind Nathan, who looks pretty good as well down in P9 behind his brother here, was within the 1 second window, but just taking his sweet time right now. But so far, clean start from us. Leo has been overtaken by Kenny, and Seep track extends the track there as rotation is trying to get past here, as Julian picks up a 3 second penalty here. So more actions happening whilst we were talking about it.
I thought Leo was right behind. Rotation goes down the inside, lays on the brakes there into turn number 12, but C will get it back for sure. Underneath him he goes, and he moves himself back up into P4, but further behind we can see Kenny defending from Leo as they both make contact. But look at Seeb going wide. Here comes rotation for a second chance at Seeb, but Seeb has the inside line. Look at those two behind us with Kenny and Leo also fighting. Seeb has the advantage on rotation. Leo is defending from Kenny. He actually re-overtakes Kenny, but I wonder what happened down at turn number 11, because Leo was right behind rotation and all of a sudden Seeb's up into P4 with Kenny fighting with Leo. Did those two make contact? Because when we went on board with C4 Gamer, he was off the track at turn 11. Rotation got bogged down as well, so I wonder if those two made contact. They're getting caught up in some incidents. But Jasper's gone for a spin down at the triple right hander, and that's not the first driver to do so. Bonpierre has got past Leroy. Leroy's looked like he made a mistake there coming out of the penultimate corner because he's been overtaken there. They're not placed. Here comes Jet as well, but it gets out of shape. A bit of wheel spin on exit, and here comes Leroy then as he goes back up the inside into turn number 1 we go. Who's late on the brakes? It is QRT Leroy, but Jet can try and get a switch back on him. He gets tagged by the Alfa Romeo right behind of Julian as well. Got to be very careful in these conditions as they're all bunched up right behind each other in each other's dirty air. Vision is terrible. You can barely see anything on board with this camera angle. Never mind the drivers in the race as well. We're so careful following these drivers. Have got to have quick reactions as well. We know what it's like to race in these conditions, but I wonder the gap at the front. Can Isak Kush then close that 1.2 second gap down? Oh, we got a yellow flag somewhere. I think that's a Haas of Jasper, who's gone for a spin along with Leroy as well. Leroy's lost the car as well, and he drops himself into P16. I noticed Leroy, every time I see him, he loses the back end of the car, so that's unfortunate there for Leroy. Hasn't got the car tuned in these wet conditions, and as Julian has overtaken Jet, he went for a spin himself a few laps ago. He gets past the McLaren driver, up into P13 he goes. But yeah, Isak Kush now is 9/10 behind Walter, so he's found some pace and he's able to close in on Walter, but it's so difficult to overtake around here, so I wonder how he's going to approach this. But Nathan said that it wasn't going to rain throughout the whole of the race then, so strategy would be a key factor as well, to pit at the right time, at the right moment, because I can see Leo is right behind rotation. He was 1/10 behind him, now he's 5/10, so I think he had to back out of it just in case he made contact to the back of rotation. But this all battles going on here in the midfield, and I'm loving it, with Jasper going for another spin down at turn number 12. He's not enjoying these conditions as Troye sets the fastest lap, as looks like the top 2 or the top 3 have found themselves in a rhythm after their early first lap fights.
As we're involved with Leroy right now, I noticed that he's got front wing damage, so he presume he's gonna go into the pits right here. He's really track extending here. Yes, certainly going to pit. C picks up a 3 second penalty now, adding to his 5 second penalty, so that's not ideal for the Alfa Romeo driver? No, Aston Martin driver. And Leroy into the pits right now. Might he try an intermediate tire right now? He's of course going to change his front wing right now, and he is putting on a set of wet still. I also noticed with Leroy, he's using very low gears, which causes him to have poor traction overall. As Jasper now retires in the pits. Poor performance overall from Jasper there, making it the second retirement of the race. And for Leroy, it's just important to use higher gears and generally just you have more traction there, because he's going down to second gear in the wet, which is very dangerous, as he's nearly spun on the pit exit there. So Leroy's got to learn the track or the gears a bit more, I reckon.
talk about learning the track, I think DeMarco needs to learn the braking zones because that's the second time on this lap I've seen him go wide and that's cost him a place to rotation, and that also gave him a 3-second time penalty because when he went wide and Kenny's been overtaken by AJ, and what a move there by AJ because that's not a place to overtake. I don't think he was fully alongside him into turn number 12, but somehow he's got past Kenny and he demotes him into P8. But look at the Alpine and Leo having a tank slap at the exit of turn 15 there. You can see him sliding through the corners, you can see them losing the car as AJ slides through underneath, but Leo has the inside line. You can see him fighting away with the rear of the car, but you can see Leo just stays in front there. The car was just snatched away. It looked like he could have spun at any moment in time, but Leo's gone deep into the last corner, and that's going to allow AJ to overtake him. But Leo to be very careful because you can lose traction so easily on the curbs, and now AJ is able to pull up alongside him. Surely he should get the move done into turn number 1 now, having the inside line. Leo double locks up into turn 1. Does he go wide? No, he doesn't. AJ goes a bit wide, but he has the racing line. You can see Leo with his steering adjustment there, the back end of the car. Oh, that could be a safety car.
Safety car. Safety car indeed. Arthur Leroy has retired. We were talking about him just a moment ago, and he has unfortunately retired here. I also noticed, I'm not sure if you're on board with other cars here, but the rain has definitely decreased here, so might we see some guys trying the intermediate tires on their next stop, because this is definitely a perfect opportunity to switch on to the intermediate tires for some, because the rain has definitely got a lot less compared to the start of this race.
Might do. We'll see. We'll see. And it is definitely a safety car because I looked at the black box on the right hand side and it says SC, so a full course safety car has been deployed, because the first lap we had a virtual safety car when Orvila dropped to the back of the grid, and I think Tony was involved as well. So 2 of our championship contenders then are down in P17 and one of them's retired. They're both P1 and P2 in the championship, separated by 7 points. No points towards Orvila, but Tony can still pick up points, but he's outside the points for the time being. But with this safety car bunching the whole field up, it gives Tony another opportunity to make his way back through the field, and let's see how many points he can gain from there. But it's all looking good there for Walter P1, controlling the race ever since lap 1. Oh, that was so close in the first lap with Walter there. He was under big pressure from Isak Kush and Troye, but Troye and Isak Kush being very wise about it, not fighting too hard, as Joshua gets a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits there. But Walter's in the pit lane. Let's have a look at this then, where Stevan.
Indeed, and I'm presuming he's gonna switch over to another set of wets, interestingly. Not sure why it is. The rain has definitely decreased. Is this a mistake on Wouters' end, maybe, to not switch over to the intermediate tires? Sieb is in, Kenny is in. Well, Resify is also into the pit, so we're seeing different strategies here from the drivers. Let's see what tires Sieb has gone on. He has serving his 5-second penalty and is switching to a set of wets as well. So people not taking the risk here to switch over to a set of intermediates, whilst the rain has definitely decreased here. Is Julian gonna switch over to the intermediates? He isn't as well. So everyone's sticking on a set of wet tires, but those wet tires can potentially make it to the end. This is perfect for Tony though, because now he can catch up back to the field here and put on a set of fresh wet tires, I presume, which he does as well. Fresh wet tires. No one taking the gamble here to go for a set of inters here, as they probably can't make it till the end, but will be better in the early stage here. But let's see, it could always still happen on the next lap. But interesting to see from everyone from 12 onwards to 17th is on a different strategy. Actually, Wouter has created such a big gap that he, despite making a pit stop, is still in P4, which just sums up the pace him, Isak Kush, Troye and Rotation had, to be honest. They were so far clear for everyone else.
Yeah, I was about to mention that Walter because I thought he could lose a lot of positions, but that helped with other people pitting and him creating a big gap, like you said, as well. And thanks to the delta under the safety car, because it slowed him down a bit because he could go full pace. So that's helped Walter quite a lot. It's not cost him too much. He's got 6-lap pressure tyres, and he'll be able to put up pressure on Rotation, Troye and Isak Kush. I think it was best for Isa and Troye to stay out there, because if they did a pit with Walter, I dare say they would have been in the same position as before, just wouldn't be able to overtake. So they had to do something different and get track position rather than the fresher tyres. But what could be better? But let's say if it does ease up in the end, we could see Isak Kush and Troye add rotation go onto the inters to do that one stop, whereas Walter would have to do two stop to wet inters. So if it does dry up now, Isak Kush and Troye rotation will be very smart.
There you go. We've got a bidder. We've got a bidder in Troye. Troye going for the pit stop as well. Is he gonna put on the self intermediates?
It's got to be.
Let's see. Other guys also well. Evans, Joshua, Carl pitting, Reservoir also in a bit steep again, and it's definitely getting spicy now. What tires are running, and I see intermediate tires. Oh, they're gonna have the double stack for Red Bull. This is a disaster for Kenny. Oh, he just glitched through him. Never mind. But this is the interesting strategy is now coming out with Troy being the lead intermediate right now. I definitely think this is the correct call here. Tony decided to stay out, which I don't think is a good call here. But yes, this race has definitely spiced up now.
Yeah, it's turned on its head massively, and I think the safety car will come to end at the end of this lap. So if it is time for inters, the pendulum in this race has swung towards Troye, Joshua, Kenny, DeMongo, Reservoir, and Carl's way as well. I think the guys in the top 10 have to pit on this lap, and they'll lose a heap of time now towards Troye. So Troye there made a very smart call. If it is eased up in the race and rotation, Isak Kush, Walter and all them on the wets will lose a lot of time towards the inter runners, and that'll cost him big time in the race. Got to pit at the right time, be in the right tyres at the right time. It's so difficult to judge as well. But I thought Walter's pit stop was smart, being on fresher tyres, but it looks like the rain has eased off quite quickly now, and we're able to go on the inters. Inters. But interestingly, Tony, despite seeing all those drivers stay out, go in the pit lane, he stayed out there on the wet tyres, so he hasn't opted to go in the pit lane. But we saw the Dutch Grand Prix where people went on the wets too early, and the inters was able to. Inters were still faster than the wets, but this time it's vice versa. Could the inters be faster than the wets at this stage, or could the wets be faster than the inters? We'll never know, but we'll find out in a few moments time. But yeah, it's like the Dutch Grand Prix when people switching strategies. It turned out the inters were the right tyre at the Dutch GP because it wasn't rated enough, but could the wet tyres be the right time, or has the rain eased up? We'll find out in a few moments time once Malta gets underway. But yeah, if it is inters, the guys who pitted just now have made a very smart call because they get a massive gap over the guys over the wets. As both McLarens are switching positions with Julian as well. What's going down in the midfield there? They're just constantly switching positions under the safety car. Hopefully no one's overtaking each other or being naughty under the safety car. But I'm on board about Isak Kush now in P1. What will these guys do? Will they go in the pit lane to put on a set of intermediates, or will they stay out there in the wets? But Isak Kush gets a 3-second time penalty, and I don't think, look at that, the East rotation is in the pit lane then to put on a set of inters. Look at Isak Kush there getting a very bad exit coming out the final corner, and we're off racing once again. Lap 9 out of 28 then. We've got a few people pitted, that's 3 people pitted including Jet, that's going on the intermediates then. So there's a change of strategy in this race. Oh, there's a lot of things spiced up here with a lot of drivers in different positions at the start of the race, indeed.
Indeed. And let's see how much temperature Troy can now create in his intermediate tires. And what can Wouter and Isak Kush can do now on these wet tires now? Can they still pull away early on? It looks like Troy is really struggling on those intermediate tires, and Tony is about to overtake him like it's nothing, and it's gonna take about 4 to 5 laps for these intermediates to settle in. But if they don't lose too much time, then they can gain that time after once again. So I don't think this is necessarily a bad strategy from both drivers here, as it's a gamble for on both sides. It's a very difficult one to get right here. There isn't one correct decision you can make.
And Tony has made the move on Troye. That was into turn number 11. Julian's got past Nelly Safu. Wilds, however, is going to go down the inside of Isak Kush. Double locks the brakes. He makes the corner though, and he takes the lead of the race ahead of Isak Kush. Can he fight back? No, he's too far behind. So Walter there with the fresher wet tyres has got past Isak Kush there. So it looks like Walter in the end made the right call, but we still see if the inters might be the inters are not good at this stage of the race. As you can see, the inters are struggling because they're chopping away from the wet runners there. So it looks like it was a bit too early, as Kenny there has gone for a spin. He's fully spun the car, and unfortunately there he loses a lot of positions, and he rejoins down in P16 now with AJ just overtaking them. So I think Walter there in the end made the right call with the fresh wets, but you never know if the track dries up very dramatically, and it could be the inters that could be the Inters that'd be quicker at the stage of the race. But Walter sets the fastest lap of the race, followed by Isaac Kush. Leo finds himself on the podium in P3 there. Keep an eye on Julian because he's in P6 on the fresh set of the wet compound tyres too. We'll find out which strategy was the best one so far. Let's go towards Walter Way that pitted early for a brand new set of wets.
Well, if I was in this scenario, I would have also bid for the intermediate since it was under the safety car here. But can these intermediate runners at the moment make it to the end of the Grand Prix? They're gonna really have to manage these tires. Whilst the wet runners, they can just fully send it. Or Leo is really sending it, going fully sideways. Pretty much there, but they can just push on these tires and then switch over to the intermediates in a couple of laps and keep pushing on those intermediates. So it's a gamble for both sides here, but I think the wets are currently definitely favorable.
Especially the newer wets from Walter because he's just pulled a 1.4 second gap. As we can see, Tony is about to overtake Nelly Safu. He's going alongside. Tony has been brought back in this race after being at the back of the most of the race, making potential contact with O'Reilly. I'm not quite sure if it's confirmed or not, but it also overtake. Oh, Julie went off the track there. He outbroke himself massively, and it showed on my screen Tony overtook him, but he didn't. He stayed behind because Julian went so far off the track there. The positions glitched a bit, and Julian remains in P7 then ahead of Tony. No, in fact, Tony's got past Julian, so Julian went so wide, Tony was able to go underneath him and overtake him for P6 then. So Tony's made another position up into P6. He's having a good race now after that safety car's come out, which has boosted him and helped him in this race, as able to make up all those positions he lost at the start of the race. His next target now is Bob Pierre, and we've got McLaren going in the pit lane. Is that Nelly Safu? Yes, it is then. So let's see what tyres he goes on.
Is there going to be intermediates because Troy is closing the gap to Tony and Julian here, so I think the crossover point has for sure happened here as the intermediates have warmed up to the track conditions here, and it looks like Troy has found some confidence here on those intermediate tires here, so it won't surprise me if more wet runners are gonna pit any moment now to get rid of those wet tires to switch over to the intermediate tires here. So what can Troy do now? He knows Tony still has to make pits of it, so a massive opportunity for him to gain points within the championship.
Now it's all over the back of the Alfa Romeo, and the Alfa Romeo gets a tag slapper coming out of turn number 9 there, which is going to encourage Troy. Jet gets a 3-second time penalty, and he's just joined ahead of his McLaren teammate, who's boxed for a brand new set of the Inters there. So those two are fighting for P16 as Troy there. Can he get a decent exit coming out of turn number 11 then? Slipstreaming with the help of the ERS. No DRS of course in these treacherous conditions. He's thinking he's too far back because the Alfa Romeo is also using his ERS as well. Can Troy go up the inside though? Yes he will. He will try to do so down into turn number 12. Further up we've got Bompier versus Tony. We can see that Troy has got past Julian, but further up Bompier defending from Tony as Tony's trying to do a switchback now on the Haas driver. We've got yellow flags because the McLaren's just got off the track there. Bompier, would he go deep into turn number 15? Yes he does. Can Tony get a decent exit? Gets a decent launch coming out the corner. He's going side by side, but Bompier has the inside line. Tony trying to stick it around the outside. They're getting perilously close between each other. Milliseconds separating these two. And Tony there gets past Bompier. He moves himself up into P5. And what a battle that was between those two. Now Troye is going to put pressure on the Haas driver ahead of him. We've got Leo in the pit lane. We've got Julian in the pit lane. So I dare say it's definitely time for the Inters because Troye is sticking with these wet runners. So the time for Inters has finally come.
Indeed. But Wouter, interesting, still was at the fast lap just now. So it looks like Wouter's just still got a really good pace on those wet tires despite it being intermediate conditions right now. So Wouter's in a league of his own, being 3 seconds clear of Isatkush now and not getting any warnings. But I presume he's gonna pit this lap here. But the interesting point is he can now make it to the end of the Grand Prix here with only 16 laps to go after this lap here. So Wouter's still in a really good position here and can still push on those tires later on here. We saw a very good oh Jesus. You take it over, Jamie.
He got my coffee fit, and now look at Troye then. He's going to put massive pressure he's just overtaking Bompierre. He moves himself up into P5. Now he's going to put pressure on Tony ahead of him. These two, the championship contenders. Troye in P3 in the championship. He's currently 15 points behind Tony. Will he go for a move like he did the previous lap? No, he does not. He remains in P5. However, Joshua's back up there in P7 as well. And Troye, then how long he's going to stay behind the Williams of Tony? Bompierre, he got him into before turn number 11, and unfortunately for himself he couldn't get Tony into turn 12. But Troye crawling over the back. He can't afford to make mistakes. He knows he's got the fresher tyres, the better tyres at this stage. Can't afford to make mistakes with the difference of speed they're carrying in the corners. But I wonder, will the top runners pit? And I think Walter hasn't pitted. No. What about Isaac Kush? And the Aston Martin of Isaac Kush in the pits.
And Nathan as well, both decided to make a pit stop here to go to the end. But Wouter just staying out there, using the best of those wet tires here as a rotation, because of it picks up a 3-second penalty here. But Wouter looks really good right now on those wet tires. Troy is closing the gap, surely. We can now see a comparison between these two as the gap is starting to come down here between both drivers here. But even if Wouter pits, he's still gonna be near P6, P7, because he was 3 seconds ahead of Isaac Kush, so he's still gonna be P5 if Wouter pits this lap here. So Wouter's looking really good now to carry on the championship chase, with Tony now down in P11 here, so it's looking really good for Wouter and Isaac Kush in the championship battle. And Troy, of course.
Saw some interesting battles going on in midfielder, because Isaac Kush just came out of the pit lane. He was just ahead of Rotation, but Rotation had a lovely exit around the outside of turn number 1, which enabled him to have good traction and better launch than Isaac Kush, who's on the cold inters coming out of the pit lane then. But he's all over the back of Isaac Kush now, Rotation now. In the background we saw Nathan and AJ fighting. Nathan just beat his brother ahead and he's up into P9 with Leo just ahead of him as well. And we've got Isaac Kush pulling to the left hand side, gonna go down the inside into turn number 12. We've got Rotation trying to stick around the outside there. Can he do so? No, because Isaac Kush has the racing line then. So let's see how long Walter decides to stay out there for on those wet tyres, and will he pit this lap? No, yes he does then. That was a very late call, it seemed like, but Troye then will take the lead of the race. But what a gap that was. 12 seconds was the gap between Walter and Troye, and I wonder, where will Walter rejoin? Because if he rejoins behind Reservoir, there's a load of cars behind him, and that's going to be very interesting to see where he comes out in the mix there, along with the other field. Shout out to Joshua in P3, moving up to P2 now thanks to Walter's pit stop. The man started in last place, and now he's up into P2. What a drive from Joshua, because he benefited from the first safety car, pitted towards the Inters, and now he finds himself in P2. But look at Walter, that he rejoins ahead of the Mongol. Does he get ahead? Yes, he does then. He moves himself up into P3, ahead of Steve Gamer there. And that's crucial for him then, not getting stuck behind Steve Gamer. He could continue his pursuit because his tyres are younger than Evans, Joshua and Troye then. So it looks like Walter there not losing a lot of time despite being on those wets and being the latest of the wet runners to pit. And now he's going to chase after Evans, Joshua and Troye. Walter having mighty pace there. And let's see how it all pans out for him later on with 14 laps to go in this race in the wet conditions. When it goes towards the dries towards the end, I wonder, because that's what Nathan did say on the Discord chat.
Indeed, he said that it's gonna be interesting. We still have halfway of this race to go, so this race, in my opinion, has gone for absolute ages, and we still have half of the race to go. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Bowser's for sure gonna close that gap to the leaders here, since having 6-lap-old fresher tires here. Same for Isaac Kush, who's only about 3.5 seconds behind Wouter here, so he's gonna be in the chase as well for this battle here, and he's on control as well. So he's got a really good pace there for a pad player here. And using those fresh tires here, hopefully he can still make up to the podium here, as he's slowly but surely catching up to the Ferrari while being behind him, and also catching up to his teammate.
We've got Tony putting big pressure on Nathan. I think a few laps ago he was able to get past AJ, because AJ stayed out there on the tyres. Well, he pitted under the first safety car. and that's why I lost a lot of time towards Tony. Troye sets the fastest lap of the race then. His target is Walter in P3. Joshua has done a fantastic job in P2 there. Can he remain on the podium? But unfortunately for him, he's picked himself up a penalty, but I wonder how much it is. I think it's 3 seconds he's picked up. Yes, it has, so can't afford to pick up any more, especially if a late safety car comes out, which could provoke his progress. But Isa Kush is going to go down the inside into turn 1 ahead of Reservoir. Those two with 5 lap fresher tyres. I think Isa Kush had that against Reservoir and able to get better traction on the Ferrari ahead of him. Oh, I thought somebody went for a spin there, but it's just my eyes deceiving me a bit there. I don't know what I saw, but it must have been a shadow or something or the rain. But Tony, I thought I saw Steve spin. That's what I thought I saw.
Maybe some lag as well. Could potentially always be the case. You don't know. To be honest, you don't know on that fun game here. Everything can happen. It might have been luck, so don't worry about it, Jamie. We're just gonna focus ahead. Troy is pulling away from Evans. Joshua, not really surprised there, as Troy is showing some really strong pace throughout the season here. But Wouter is closing the gap to Evans Joshua here. But Evans Joshua from qualifying last is now in P2, so hopefully he can carry on that momentum here. Made the right decision to pit under the safety car. Oh, I think he did, under the safety car. So definitely the right decision here. But Wouter is showing his supreme pace and closing him down by a quite quick amount here. So it's gonna be within no time. It's gonna be within the 1 second window. Of course, no DRS in the rain. Otherwise that would be very dangerous. As Troy sets the fast lap here. What can Wouter do on this lap? I presume he's gonna beat his fast lap here. He does not. So Troy has got really good pace despite having 6 lap older tires than Wouter.
Give you an interesting fight towards the end if Troy's tyres do drop off slightly and Wouter's able to close that gap down. He's closing that gap down towards Joshua. It's 2 seconds now, and likewise to Troy, who's closing, well, increasing the gap towards Joshua, which is 4.9 now. So Wouter putting pressure on Joshua very, very shortly. Then Wouter will be able to focus on Troy ahead of him for the battle for P1. And Troy there having a very good race once again. He didn't have a good race in Portimao, unfortunately, after being taken out by Pyro in the first corner in the sprint race, and he lost his front wing, the whole of it. Then had to make a recovery drive in the feature race, I think, and I mean in the feature race, and that's when he finished. Let's have a look. Where did he finish in the drivers' championship, in the drivers' standings? In P7, so it was a good drive. I think I remember him being on all medium tyres too towards the end of that stint, so it was an incredible drive for him. I think it was the hards because the others were on the mediums. I think he did the alternate strategy to try and get the best start off the line and try and have some pace, because he started in the midfield and that's when he tried to make it most positions up. Then he went on the hard compound tyres, got surrounded by the mediums, but they didn't put too much pressure on him and he stayed in P7. Pyro recovered up into P3. Now I've been looking at the wrong results here. That is France. What am I looking at that one for? But anyways, we can see Leo and Rotation there getting very close towards each other in turn 15, but Rotation just holds on. We know Leo is on fresher tyres as cars retired. That could trigger a safety car. CPI Troye sets the fastest lap of the race. And here we go then. Is this a safety car, I wonder?
It is. It is. Safety car's out on the track right now. So this will bunch up the field, and this is a disaster for the people who have got a penalty. And we see Troy, bless you, we see Rotation responding straight away to that safety car by pulling into the pit stop to put on a fresh set of intermediates here. Same for Kenny and AJ and Julian here. Actually AJ didn't pit, apologies. It's Julian, Nilusafu, all pitting now for fresh set of intermediates. Not that it's gonna matter that much since it is about 5 laps old to 8 laps old, but of course it's a free pit stop now under the safety car here after the retirement of Carl. So there's only one Red Bull left, who's in P2 right now, so good stuff from him. But let's see what's gonna happen now in the rest of the race, as Reserve 5 picks up a drive to penalty for speeding under the safety car here. So he has served that drive to penalty after the safety car period has ended. So that is a disaster for him. And Tony picks up a 3-second penalty now in P8. So there's so many penalties coming in now. So the drivers are not very clean at the moment in terms of penalties and yeah, in terms of penalties.
The drivers are picking up penalties behind a safety car more than the actual race, and that is very confusing. I've noticed 4 drivers in this race have picked up a penalty behind a safety car. I think Sieb was one of them, and Tony and Resify, and who else? There was one more driver who did that as well. So I'm not quite sure what drivers are doing around here. I think it was Joshua, in fact, himself who picked up a 3-second penalty for exceeding track limits under the safety car. So yeah, 4 drivers who was exceeding track limits. I'm not quite sure how they're doing that one, but yeah, what's the scenario at the front? Yeah, Troy A is going to go in the pit lane then, because I was about to say, now the field will be bunched together, Walter will have fresher tyres on the Ferrari, as Joshua, interestingly, has stayed out there on all the tyres then, keeping Walter at bay in P3 under the safety car. Here comes Troy A. Will he lose any track position towards the guys behind? And his next rival is DeMongo. He has to respond to the safety car Delta, hence why he's not going flat out then, so they might help him just a bit. But I dare say, where will he rejoin? Is it behind both Aston Martins? I think it is. Both Aston Martins go through on Troye, as Troye then will come out the pit lane in P5, so he's lost 2 positions towards Isak Kush and the Mongol in P3 as well. And however, Walter in P2, right behind Joshua, who started in last place and currently leading this race unexpectedly, but his strategy calls has paid dividends for him in this race.
For sure has, but the good thing for Troy now is that he can make it till the end of the Grand Prix. He doesn't have to worry about tires and just can fully push without having a penalty as well. So hopefully he can overtake Isak Kush and Sieb quickly, so he can catch up to Wouter, because now Troy has got a fresh set of tires here. And of course, having 2 safety cars throughout this race means the conditions will
dry up.
Yeah, it will get quickly, or the dry conditions may be appearing near the end of the Grand Prix. I'm not sure if it works like that, but let's see.
It works like it in the game, but not in real life, because obviously it's on a set timer in the game. But in real life, it won't work like that. Well, it could work anyway in the game or in real life. But however, your race leader is Joshua, has done a fantastic job in this race. He's suffered really badly in qualifying, and I thought transferring over to the wet conditions, I thought it'd be even worse, but he's done a mighty job in that Red Bull to keep it on the track and be in P1. He had a good start, by the way. He was lap 1, he was 7 places up already from P20 to P13, so ever since then, now thinking about it, he's actually been quite good in the wet conditions. I remember in the season and last season as well, in the wet conditions, he's always been a standout in these wet conditions. I think it was mostly last season, because I don't think we've had many wet races this season either, so yeah, Joshua's one to keep an eye out for in the wet conditions. He loves it, and he was on course for a podium in Canada, I think it was last season, and that's where I remember him. But is that an Aston Martin? No, I thought Aston Martin was going to dive in the pit lane, and they're both behind each other with a penalty, the Mongol and Isak Kush, but I think one of them has got a 5-second tab. No, Steve's got rid of it, so they're both equal on penalties, and they're both fighting for a podium. The Mongol has done a fantastic job also in this race, but he's under huge pressure from Isak Kush, who's on fresher tyres in comparison to him then, so how long can the Mongol stay on the podium? Because also that, we've got Troye in P5 and a brand new set of Vinters too, so let's see if DeMongo can defend from that, and let's see if Joshua can defend from Walter. So far, he's managed to keep him at bay, but now they're bunched up. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all unfolds once the safety car heads back in the pit lane.
Indeed. There's not really much to say. We've pretty much talked over everything right now. Just gotta hope for the dry conditions. The good thing for Jet, he will, I think, just about catch up here as the safety car will come in this lap, I presume at least. So let's see how that's gonna go. Yes, the cars are going really slowly. All drivers have to make sure to get tires still in the temperature here. And the advantage for Jet is he will have tire temp still, despite being so far down. He can continue to run at race pace here. And oh my goodness, he nearly lost the car there. He's doing some lovely burnouts there, even though that's not supposed to happen, as he's supposed to catch up to the field now. But he'll have warmer tires compared to the rest of the field, which will pay dividends on the restart here.
Once he catches up, the safety car should be in this lap. Hopefully we can get some more racing action with about 9 laps to go in this race. Joshua has done a fantastic job, but unfortunately with the gap he created as well without the safety car, because he's got a 3-second time penalty. Bear in mind though, other drivers do have penalties, but yeah, his lead has been wiped out. So is Troyes as well, that's why he's down in P5. But it could be under massive pressure for Walter on fresher tyres anyway, so I think it was a wise thing to do a pit stop, then get challenged at the end of the race. But Joshua, have you noticed something on his right front?
Let me check. Right front, let me see. Does he have front wing damage?
Yeah, he does.
He does have front wing damage. Indeed, good spot there, Jamie. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can manage that gap. When did he pick up the damage? That's going to be interesting to see, because he didn't hit the safeguard, did he?
I don't know, mate. I've not really checked this for winning the whole race, but
I mean, his pace is pretty impressive. As the safeguard still stays out there for another lap. His pace is pretty impressive. We have Troy into the pits.
What is he doing?
We have
Reservoir.
also. What are Ferrari doing? Nathan pick up the 5. What is going on?
That's a medium set of compound tyres being fitted on the Ferrari. They think it's going to dry up now when the safety car is there. Both Ferraris have committed to the medium compound tyres, and I've got goosebumps now. And look at Jet as well, also the medium, so they believe it's going to dry up. Have they made the right choice as well? And we're about to find out. There's another twist in this race as well. Now the mediums are being introduced in this race. We've had wets, we've had inters, now having medium compound tyres. They're not going for the softs because I don't think they can make it towards the end. It's funny saying that with like 7 laps to go. It doesn't seem like much, but trust me, the tyres do wear out dramatically around this track on the softs here in Texas. But that is very interesting. Will it pay out for them? Are they going to look smart? But we'll find out then.
I mean, I'm very confused by this call because it's still raining. The track is so wet still, and Troy was in a P4 position on fresher tyres, and he decides to make a pit stop here, even though he can gain points on Tony here. So very shocked by the decision for the Ferrari. This is even worse than the Ferrari decisions they make in real life, because they're now in P14, P16. But do they know something we don't? I'm not sure, but I think this is a horrendous decision.
Yeah, me too, because Troy Reservoir almost lost it when out of turn number 9. His rotation's joined back and he didn't even realise he left, so thankfully he joined back. He's in P10 and can join his car once he's in the lobby then. But yeah, I don't... Oh yeah, it's a lot to risk, especially when you're in Championship 5 and in P5. If you were like Jet, using him as an example, then yeah, go for it, because he's got nothing to lose essentially. But if you're like, in the Championship 5, in P5, and you can see it's still raining, and you lost a lot, because it don't dry up quickly, does it, here, or any track. It takes quite a while to like the track to dry up, so yeah, I don't think they made the right choice, but like you said, they know something we don't. I dare say one of them could have gone on the mediums, which is Reservoir, not both of them, because now they're both on the mediums. They both lose a lot of time if it is the wrong call instead of one of them and giving the information to the other. But Joshua then will lead them away at the safety car restart. I don't think he was expected to lead this race, with 8 laps left to go. Anything could happen. The two behind him of Demongol and Isak Kush have penalties, along with Tony, Nathan and rotation, Julian, Jet and Reservoir. And Joshua can go whenever he wants then, as he makes his way towards the final corner. How easy or hard will it be to defend from Walter? Let's find out then as we make our way. Look at that safety car restart. Joshua's got a Walter. That was a lovely one. And Reservoir is in the pit lane again. And
drive through.
Oh, drive through. Yeah, I thought he could have switched over. Look at the Aston Martin going deep into turn 1. Look at the Red Bull going deep into turn 1 then. So a few drivers have gone deep into turn 1. Late on the brakes, but Walter messed up in turn number 2. He almost lost the car. Isak Kush is ahead of Seaworld Gamer, with Leo all over the back of him then. And they're all bunched up together, as you can see there. Walter going down the inside in these slow speed corners. Now around the outside, into turn number 9 we go. He has the inside line. Can Joshua stick around the outside? No, he can't. What a move there from Walter, as he moves himself back into the lead of the race, ahead of the Red Bull of Joshua. Now Isak Kush then will be looking very interesting right behind the Red Bull as well. But yeah, what a move there from Walter. Joshua goes deep again. That front wing damage has cost him dearly. But why didn't we see this before in the first few laps of this race? Maybe he hit behind the safety car, I'm not quite sure. But he's side by side now with the Aston Martin of Isak Kush, both draining their ERS as we make our way down into turn number 12. Looks like the Red Bull's got a better straight line speed, but Isak Kush lays on the brakes, then into turn number 12 we go. And he moves himself up at second place to Isak Kush. Now can pursue Walter, but himself, he's got a 3-second time penalty. As you can see there, a few drivers go wide into turn number 13 we go. Is the Mongol going to go down the inside into turn 15? Yes, he is then. Does he make the move stick? Yes, he does, because we've seen him outbreak himself a few times in this race, and now he moves himself back in the podium paying positions ahead of Joshua, with Tony all of a sudden in P5. And he's going to go up the inside of Joshua as we make our way into the penultimate corner. Seymour Gamer going off the track there in the penultimate corner, and you can see both made contact as Joshua is in the pit lane. So that front wing has cost him a lot of time then. We didn't see it, did we? Before the safety car came out, but where did he lose his template, I wonder?
Probably somewhere on the exit maybe, or just hit the maybe he went something in the pits, maybe hit the wall, and then I'm not too sure. I don't know. I've got no clue where he lost it. Maybe he just lost it on the exit of a turn where he just dropped it. But if you see Evans Joshua now putting on the set of soft tires, despite it being way too wet still. Troye is 15 seconds behind the car behind us. I think Resify or Jet has spun, making it very wide. But look, it's still way too wet here. It has stopped raining, however, or has it? It's still rain, still coming onto the white as Evans Joshua has actually retired on the exit there of turn 1, and we have a virtual safety car. Not a full safety car, a virtual safety car here, so that brings an end to Evans Joshua. Weird, but unfortunately disappointing Grand Prix once again.
Oh, Josh, if I'm here to 0 in a matter of laps, and it all unfolded after the safety car going on the soft compound tyres, but both Aston Martins on the podium, but if Leo's got the pace, he can find himself on the podium, because the 3 drivers ahead of him have got a 3-second time penalty, so he can find himself a podium. And the 2 guys behind him too, both AlphaTauris, have got penalties too, but rotation on the fresher tyres might bother him just a bit there. But yeah, what a race this has been so far, and lots of things have happened with 2 safety cars and 2 virtuals, one at the start of the Grand Prix, now another one here at lap 22. And I wonder, where does this... It looks like it's stopped raining now. There is still spray, but it's stopped raining. But it's obviously not enough to cause a pit stop onto the soft compound tyres or mediums. But yeah, Troye then made the wrong choice along with Reservoir and Jet, and they've both cost themselves a lot of points in the championship. Look at Tony, who's back up there in P14 despite being at the back of the field in P18. Kenny, however, is in the pit lane. We're about to see what he does. Does he go over to the soft compound tyres as Isak Kush gets a drive-through penalty, sped away a bit too quickly, and that's him out of this podium, unfortunately for him. And he's cost himself then as he tried to claw his way up towards Wildtail, but unfortunately did not respect the delta in time and picked himself up a 5 drive-through penalty, which promotes DeMongol up into P2 and Tony up into P3, with Leo potentially getting a podium too. So Kenny spun coming out the pit lane on the medium compound tyres, and yeah, the drives then were the wrong call in the end for both Ferraris, replicating real life strategies in the Ferrari garage too.
Indeed, as Troy is not 22 seconds behind, so the cars behind, even if they do decide to make a pit stop, they're going to be ahead of Troy anyway. So this has been a disaster, because he was ahead of Tony, he did not have a penalty, and with Isak now having a drive-through penalty, he would have been P2 there, and he would have probably overtaken Isak and Sieb there. So a horrendous decision there for Troy, with just massive influence on his championship aspirations, as Tony is now in P4 and presuming to go to the end, because the rain is not getting any lighter quickly here.
It's not, and it's about 5 laps to go in this race. Will we see any dry compound tyres being fitted on late towards the end of the Grand Prix? But you can see Isak Gush is putting pressure on Walter, but that won't mean too much as he has to serve a drive-through penalty. However, Tony is on the back of the Aston Martin de Mongol, who's on 15 lap old inters, explaining why he's losing a bit of pace towards the top 2, as Tony is almost alongside him then, as we make our way now on the straight with rotation set the fastest lap of the race. As we head down into turn 1 we go. Kenny is spun coming out of turn number 12. De Mongol goes wide, and so goes Tony up into P3 is the Williams driver. What a recovery drive despite dropping towards P18. That's going to help him in the damage limitation in the championship. It's going to help him a lot as well, not lose a lot of points towards or Raiden or Troye, which is P2 and P3 in the championship. And that's what happens when you stay in the race as well, not to retire, because he was so far behind at one point and look what happened to him now after the 2 safety cars going on the right tyres, and he almost lost it coming out of turn number 9 with the back end of the car stepping out on him too. Isa Kush and Walter still fighting the gap. It's 0.6 of a second, but Walter knows he's got a drive-through penalty, so there's not a lot of pressure on Walter's shoulders at the moment. He can relax for the time being. But what a fantastic drive from the Dutchman of Walter, playing the strategy really well there, choosing when he pitted, and it played out well for him. Strategy played out really well for Walter with the pace to back it up too. As rotation goes down the inside of Isa Kush into turn number 12 we go, and Sieb has the outside line then, but he converts into the inside. Will rotation try and go around the outside now? Very difficult to pick up the throttle here with traction, but Sieb just marginally ahead of rotation, but rotation has the inside line now. Into T15 we go, and he gets ahead, but does Sieb get a better exit? No, he doesn't there, and rotation able to move his AlphaTauri up into P4.
Indeed, lovely move there by rotation, as these drivers have been battling with each other pretty much the entire race here, so lovely move by rotation. Thankfully he could be back in the session. Isa Kush makes his pit stop to go, of course serve that drive-through penalty, which will set him down to about, P11, which honestly sucks. So this is a perfect opportunity for Wouter to gain points on the championship, but Tony from all the way here is back in P2 as the rotation loses the back end here. But Tony's back in P2 here, so he's doing all he can to score as many points as he can. Is he gonna catch Wouter? Very unlikely at this stage of the Grand Prix here, but he's been 2 still, and he's gonna score a lot of points with Aurelian out of the race right now, and they're gonna lap Troy at this race if they keep going. They're gonna lap Rest 5 for sure, but are they gonna lap Troy, which is just a interesting sight to see, since Tony was behind Troy 5 laps ago.
It's been another good race for Nelly Safu. He's up into P10 so far, but might find Isa Kush all over the back of him soon. So can Nelly Safu defend from Isa Kush? He's currently in the DRS or in the slipstream train behind Julian and Bompier. Julian, quiet one for him in this race. He had a spin early on in the race, I think he did, and he's recovered beautifully up into P9. He's fighting with Bompier, his fellow IoT driver, so gotta be careful with those two. But Nelly Safu then on the hinges as well in P10. More points for the McLaren boys there, as Jet is in P14. But what a race it's been. For those viewers who are just joining in after Tier 2's probably ended, go rewatch this race, because it's been a fantastic thriller race, and loads of different strategy calls, some right ones and some obviously yeah, not the right decision. But Walter will make his way on lap 26 then, sets the fastest lap of the race. His Jet retired in the pit lane then, so no safety car to influence this race, so the tempo will be quick then towards the end of the Grand Prix. The Mongo is still behind rotation, but his tyres are 9 laps older, so I dare say rotation will keep P3. But Leo is still contention of a podium in P3. He's well out of Tony's reach, but he can still get P3 because he's about 2.8 seconds behind rotation then, so he just needs to up his pace to find himself on the podium. As Bompier and Julian had a battle going down into turn number 1 there, so let's see how that turned out for those two. And Bompier stayed ahead for the time being, as Julian is putting him under massive pressure as Resify, both Ferraris there, commission races for them. Wrong strategy call as always for Ferrari. I'm only joking indeed, but they're going to make sure they're on the right tyres at the right time. I'm not quite sure what went through their head, what Jeff told them, their strategist.
Pronto, let's box that lap for the right price, even though it is wet still.
Let's pit for the dries, even though it's wet.
Yeah, go on Ferrari, keep staying. Please keep your Italian heritage, please. As Resfire picks up another 5-second penalty to put on the intermediate side. Hopefully he can now gain about 2 minutes per lap to win this race still, with 3 laps to go only. Just kidding, Resfire. Just kidding. Let's focus on the race again, as Wout is just holding the gap right here with only 2 laps to go as he crosses the line. Resfire picking up another penalty. What an amateur. But he is starting to close that gap to Kenny from 1:20 to 1 minute 18 minutes. As Wouter calmly sets the fast lap with a 1:44.763, sums up his dominance and claiming his insurgence back into this championship.
Yeah, what a driver it's been for Wouter there, because in the first part of the season, where he had his misfortunes, he's just able to claw his way back, and he's been winning races ever since after the French Grand Prix. And he's been on form once again. The Walter we know, because I thought he fell off. Well, he never fell off, but I thought something happened to him at the first opening parts of the race. But he's found his form again, found his rhythm, and he's back to where he was, the defending two-time champion of CRL, Walter. And I want to say what a fantastic drive it's been from Tony as well in P2, because the man was down in P18 and last at this opening start of the race, and he finds himself in P2. So what a drive it's been. Rotation, good race from him in P3 on the podium, but it's not over yet. It might be over now because Leo's dropped further behind and the gap's over 3 seconds between Leo and Rotation. So Rotation will claim the podium on his return, and what a drive it's been from the Swedish driver there. Started in P5 up into P3, and yeah, good drive from him. Made some good overtakes of both Aston Martins too, and Steve there on 19 lap old into. His tyres are dying so far, but he's still extending the gap over Leo though, so P4 could be his, but the minimum will be P5, because Nathan's too further behind to try and make an influence on De Mongol's position. But we're headed on to lap 28 now, as Walter will make his way towards the last corner. Reservoir continues to pick up more penalties, and the closest gap out there, the closest battle is between the two brothers, followed by Julian in P8, who's got past Bob here by the way, but didn't see that unfortunately. But Julian there up into P8 ahead of Isa Kush. Nelly Safu, unfortunately, is outside the top 10, but he still scored points obviously. But Nathan under big pressure from AJ, with Julian right behind him too. AJ does not have a penalty, but Nathan, he picked up a penalty for severe collision with AJ, and I noticed Reservoir split those two as well, so I wonder if Reservoir pitted and Nathan there got caught, misjudged it a bit, because he saw a car disappeared and he probably outbroke himself and hit the back of AJ. AJ in P7 there hasn't got a penalty, so can he try and fight Nathan for P6? Leo's out of his reach as well. The gap is 3.1 between Leo, so looks like AJ might have to settle for P6 there. But it's been an interesting race so far. Nelly Safu, however, is still behind Bompier. He's 5 tenths behind the Hash driver, so can he try and... Oh, yeah, Choye's got a 2-second time penalty. It won't matter anyway, he's done in P13. Back on the inters, but it is drying up now in this race, but it's too late for both Ferraris, as it's not dry enough to merit a pit stop. But yeah, last chance to overtake Nathan on this straight. Is AJ close enough on this occasion? Nope, he's too far back. Hopefully he doesn't hit the back of him either. And the Mongol, the gap is 1.8, so unfortunately for him, did not increase that gap to 3 seconds, as Leo will claim P4, providing he does not pick up any penalties here on in this last sector. But switching, he's that cautious, overtaking Julian for PA. He moves himself up, and Julian goes off the track, but back to the front. Walter will make his way towards the final corner as he comes across the line to win the USA Grand Prix with the fastest lap as well. Tony under massive pressure from Rotation. Rotation was gaining quite a lot, and Rotation sets the fastest lap off Walter. De Mongol finishes in P4, but Leo goes into P4 with his penalty. Nathan will go into P7, or P8 now, because Isak pushes up into P7. In fact, Nathan drops further behind. Nelly Safu up into P8, and the McLaren driver then finds himself inside the top 10 once again. And it's been a good drive from him so far, and he scores points for McLaren where his teammate couldn't, and he will finish in P8.
Indeed, we saw a very exciting Grand Prix again, with very much changeable conditions here, and a strategy masterclass there by Ferrari, and just a brilliant drive there from Wouter, totally dominating this Grand Prix. Totally just dominating Grand Prix, making the right decision every single time here, and yeah, just showed his dominance. I'm not sure how many points he is on now, but he's certainly within the mix for the championship.
Yes, indeed, and more drives like that from Walter will guarantee his position in the championship, and putting under the influence from those guys as well. But Tony, what a fantastic recovery drive from him, it must be said. Despite falling all the way at the back of the grid, there might be more post-race penalties to come, because you never know if Tony did hit Orvinin or Orvinin hit Tony. We'll never know until after the race. We're about to find out in the penalties chat or race incidents, but let's hope Tony doesn't get the penalties, because that was an amazing drive from him, P80 to P2, and I'm glad to see him back up there too. So That definitely makes amends in the championship, but it puts a massive dent in Issa Kush's and Troy's championship as well, as the pendulum's gone towards Tony's way, because Tony in the last 2 races made mistakes himself, which cost him quite a few points, and now he's gained them back after 2 other people have cost themselves, one in terms of strategy and the other one getting a drive-through penalty. But Walter will definitely play a massive factor in the championship. Leo from start to P10 finishes in P4. I said he was in contention for a podium, but he's too far behind, unfortunately, for rotation. De Mongol in P5, good drive from him. He's been in the top 5 most of the race. AJ, shout out to him in P6. Bob Pierre from P12 to P7. Nelly Safu, P19 to P8. What a drive from him, the Romanian driver in P8. Isak Kush, unfortunately, with that drive through penalty. Nathan in P10. Julian in P11 with Troye. Kenny, Resify, and Co behind him, making long strategy calls or crash out the race. Aurelien was the first to go.
Indeed, Aurelien unfortunately was the first one to go out of this Grand Prix. Just sucks since he had good pace, and I totally jinxed it since I was praising him so many times. Oh, he's always at the front, he's always doing quite well and consistent, and then he DNFs, not even surviving a sector this race. So I totally jinxed it again for him. I do apologize. Let me just quickly point out that you got a driver of the day vote, Jamie, by a certain driver. So congratulations on that vote, Jamie.
I must have disappeared up the road because I was nowhere to be seen in that race. I wonder who it was. Oh, it was Jasper. No, I'm not surprised it was Jasper, to be fair. But thanks for Jasper for driving me, voting me driver of the day. I did a fantastic job out there. Did a 0 stop, no penalties, no nothing. But yeah, what a way to ride off round 9. And thank you so much, Stevan, for commentating with me yet again. It's always been a pleasure with you.
I really enjoy commentating together with you, Jamie. It's always a pleasure to commentate alongside such a great commentator, and we have a great season, to be honest. Every race has brought excitement and exciting overtakes here, so I can't wait for the rest of the season to commentate alongside you.
Yeah, can I. It's going to be very interesting. We're about to find out if Tony then extends his championship lead, and what about Walter as well? Will he be able to close in on the championship? And Aurelien and Troye will be able to close in and find those points they missed, they threw away in the race, because especially Troye as well. Troye posted in the chat the Mattia Bonotto indicating that he made the wrong strategy call, and symbolising that for our strategies as well. But we'll see you all next time out, and I will be commentating for you guys on Monday because I do tier 3 as well, so make sure you tune in for that. I will check the calendar right now. I check the calendar all the time, but I keep forgetting what race it is next. It's in Budapest at the Hungarian Grand Prix, so tune in for tier 3 on Monday 7:30 for me, and we'll be back on Thursday next week for the Budapest Grand Prix for tier 1 with Stevan. Have a good weekend, enjoy the Australian Grand Prix, and we'll see you all on Monday and Thursday with Stevan.
Bye.